What is going on, Laker fans? What is going on? It's been a little while here. We obviously got some breaking news in Los Angeles Laker world, so I want to get a chance to get on. You've been doing a little video action here, trying a new little streaming service here for YouTube. We'll see if it works great or if it works just absolutely awful. We'll find out. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. All right, Laker fans, we got some big news in this middle of the week, kind of the end of August. Not that exciting what's gone on in the NBA. Certainly not for the Lakers this offseason. Patrick Beverley is coming to the Los Angeles Lakers. So let me read it from Adrian Wojnarowski. He put this out probably about an hour ago or so. He says the Lakers and Jazz are expected to finalize a deal on Thursday morning, delivering Patrick Beverley to LA after a brief stay over with the Jazz. No picks involved in the deal. Taylor Horn Tucker and Stanley Johnson will go over to the Utah Jazz, and the Lakers obviously get Patrick Beverley. So we got a lot that there's a few different topics I actually want to get into on this. Let me first kind of start off by saying I think, could be wrong, Laker fans. I've been wrong plenty of times. But I have a feeling that the Kevin Durant earlier this week deciding that he's going to stay with the Brooklyn Nets, a lot of teams are now going to start moving on from whatever their plan was. If it was the Lakers trying to get Kyrie, if it was other teams trying to get KD, I think we're actually going to probably see some action that we haven't been seeing in the NBA, in the league, since really free agency started. I think that's going to start happening. I don't know if there's going to be big blockbuster moves. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell goes. I don't know about that. But I think some of these smaller moves are going to start happening. And I think that KD piece is going to force teams to start going to plan B, plan C. And I actually really feel like this is part of it for the Lakers. So let's look at Patrick Beverley real quick for the Lake Show. All right, we're pretty familiar with Pat Beverley. Pat Beverley was on the Clippers for, what was it, 5 years, something like that. An absolute agitator his entire career. One of those guys that when you're playing against him, you're like, I really hate this dude. And then I'm sure if he's on your team, you're saying, I love having this guy on my roster. So I think all Laker fans are knowledgeable enough to know that the Lakers have really, really been missing a player like this. Kind of that demeanor, that style, that dog, that chip on his shoulder. That's Pat Beverley, and that's been Pat Beverley his entire career. I think it is. I think it will certainly benefit the Lakers just from a locker room perspective, having somebody out there that is not concerned of speaking his mind, challenging some of the players, whether it's the younger players or it's the older veteran players, LeBron, Anthony Davis. I think you're always going to get the honest opinion from Patrick Beverley, whether you like it or not. That's off the court. On the court, what I think Pat Bev will bring on, what I think he'll bring to the table. If you guys watched any of that playoff run last year, and if you guys remember, it's a play-in tournament, and Patrick Beverley and the Minnesota Timberwolves end up making the playoffs. They lost in the first round to the Memphis Grizzlies, I want to say in 6 games, but they put up a good fight. And I actually think Patrick Beverley had a lot to do with that. Now, I know he's not Karl Anthony Towns or D'Angelo Russell. I know he's not those players, but that's okay. You don't have to be. You just need to be a role player that fits in, finds a way to impact the game. And I think he's going to help the Lakers. I really do. Here's my one concern I got with him. He's 34 years old. So let's not pretend like Patrick Beverley is 28. He's 29 years old. But I still think he can have impact on this Lakers team. And again, I want to reiterate this. The Lakers are desperate to have this type of player on their team. They're obviously going to get it with Patrick Beverley. So I'm excited about that piece of it. I think Pat Bev's going to be able to help the Lakers. I most definitely hope this is not the final move for the Lakers, but I'll get into that in just a second. So Pat Bev coming to the Lake Show. Feel free to comment below. Give me your thoughts. You like the move? You don't like the move? Let me know specifically what you think on Pat Bev. I was asked this question. So I come on occasionally with CBS KCAL here in LA, and I just did something with Jamie Maggio, and she asked a question about, hey, Russ and Pat Bev have had some history in the past. Do you think this could get in the way? How do you think that relationship is? Number one, I have absolutely no idea if Russ is still going to be on the roster by the time training camp starts. I really, really don't know. Number two, I think both of these players, Patrick Beverley's on the final year of his contract. Russ is obviously on the final year of his contract. I'm sure both of these guys just want an opportunity to compete, try to make some type of a playoff run. I have to imagine they're both professional enough. They've both been in the league long enough to where something like that's not going to be an issue. That's number one. The second thing, I'm going to go back to what I mentioned earlier. There is no guarantee that Russ is going to be on this roster. I actually think now, because that KD stuff's not happening, Kyrie's not coming to the Lakers, that there might be more teams willing to kind of make moves. And the Utah Jazz can be one of those teams, by the way. Do I wish that the Lakers were able to get Patrick Beverley in a buyout? Of course I do. But that obviously was not the case. They had to actually trade for him. But I'm not paying as much attention to that Russ piece. Let's see what happens with Russ. And if training camp starts and Pat Beverley and Russ are on the same team, then those two can figure it out. But ultimately, it's got to be for what's in the best interest of, obviously, the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay, let's talk about what the Lakers gave up. They gave up Talen Horton-Tucker and Stanley Johnson. I sent out a tweet when all this was kind of going down. Look, here are my thoughts on what the Lakers gave up. I've been pretty consistent with Talen Horton-Tucker. I never really understood the THT piece of this. I thought THT was overvalued. That's not to say that the kid does not have a ton of potential. But I thought by picking THT in the offseason over, let's say, a guy like Alex Caruso, you got somebody that's going to help you today. You got somebody, and I'm talking about Alex Caruso, you got somebody that's not afraid of the big moment, has enough experience in the league, has already proven what an asset he can be on the defensive side. Really, Alex Caruso is, I don't want to say a younger Patrick Beverley. He's a younger, bigger. Alex Caruso does a lot of those things that you wanted that they didn't have last season. The THT piece always confused me. It's like you want Talen Horton-Tucker as a 20, 21-year-old to contribute on a team that's trying to compete for an NBA championship, have the fourth highest contract on this Lakers roster. It just didn't sound like it made sense. THT is going to the Utah Jazz. If that's a rebuilding team, sounds like a perfect place for him, where he's going to get a ton of minutes. He's going to have a long leash to make a ton of mistakes. And then eventually, by the time he's 24, 25 years old, he's ready for a role that maybe is on a playoff team, or maybe he's just been in the league long enough where the psychological part of the game catches up with his body and everything else. He's just so young at this stage. So I'm okay with THT not being on the Lakers. I never really understood why they were choosing THT over other potential players. Give me somebody that's been in the league for a while, that's ready to help you win today. And I saw a lot of tweets out there. Some people were saying, damn, you went from getting a chance to trade THT for Kyle Lowry to then having to trade THT and Stanley Johnson for Patrick Beverley, who's 34 years old. By the way, fair case. I think the Lakers overvalued Talen Horton-Tucker, but they did, obviously were able to get Patrick Beverley for him. So THT, a lot of potential. Lakers need players that can help right now, and I'm okay with seeing THT move. And that's not to say that THT is not going to have success somewhere else, because he may very, very well have success somewhere else. But we'll have to see what happens there. The last piece of this, the Stanley Johnson part, I actually am a fan of Stanley. And to be honest with you, part of my reason for liking Stanley Johnson is just for the mere fact that Lakers don't have any wing players, wing defenders. So by losing Stanley, I do think you're obviously losing something there. But they got to do what they got to do. And to be honest with you, the only thing I'm hoping for this point moving forward is that the offseason's not done for the Lakers, that they went out and traded Stanley. They went out and traded, Patrick, or they traded for Patrick Beverley. They traded THT. Now the big question is, can you go get role players for Russ? And who knows what they have in mind. Maybe they got some 3-and-D type of players in mind. Maybe they don't have to give up those 2 first-rounders, 2027 and 2029. But either way, I just don't want the offseason to end at this point, and I hope the Lakers still got, another trade or two up their sleeve specifically for that Russ contract. We'll have to wait and see. But expect more action now around the NBA. And hell, for all I know, there might be another trade coming with the Utah Jazz. The Lakers trade Russ there, and then grab guys like Bogdanovich or Mike Conley or Jordan Clarkson. I don't have the answer, but I know Utah has obviously been mentioned as far as trade chatter for the Lakers. So we'll see what happens on that front. Those are my thoughts, Laker fans. It's good to have some new news around the Lakers. It's good to have a little bit of excitement about a different player that we could look forward to towards training camp. But I hope this is just the beginning and not the end. Like I mentioned, please comment below. Subscribe to the channel, Laker fans. I encourage you guys to. And hopefully with this new little streaming service I'm using, I could pump more videos out. I know sometimes I do just the audio or I grab Lakers talk. So I'll try to do that as well. Thanks for being a part of the show. Have a good rest of your night. We will see you soon. And Lakers, let's not slow down here. Let's keep this thing going. By the way, happy Mamba Day, 8/24 today. Happy Mamba Day there. Have a good night, Laker fans.